Do you want me to try it one more time, Scott?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to be my 3-minute warning.
Oh,
Perfect. Okay.
you can start anytime. We're all seasoned. We've got our attention focused. Give your pre-election speech.
Just let me drink my water.
Okay.
Huh? Oh, that's funny, George.
I don't think they'll have the book like you're watching. I feel like Jack Nicholson.
Good evening, welcome, bienvenue, bonjour. My name is Michel Beaulieu, and I'm the past president and past chair of the Society's Board of Directors and chair of our Publications Committee. I'd like to welcome you all to our biannual Publications Awards. For those in town in particular where, I don't know, this year it seems like we had a snowstorm and now we have a rain weather watch. So thank you all for coming out this evening, and thank you all else for joining us online. Before we begin the formal part of today's event, I'd like to acknowledge the original custodians of this land, pay our respect to the elders, past, present, and future, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture, and the hopes of Indigenous peoples. I'd also like to recognize that where we are today at the Thunder Bay Museum is on the traditional land of the Fort William First Nation, which is signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty of 1850. I'd also like to acknowledge the role of the Métis settlement in the development of our community. I'd also like, for those online, just take a moment as well and think about the territory in which you are living on. So a couple of housekeeping items for those who are both in person and in online. Just like to thank everyone for joining us via Zoom. We're also by phone as well as in person. For those who are in person, please do silence or turn off your mobile devices. Be much appreciated. Those in person, the bathroom is actually, it's my flight attendant thing, where Scott Bradley is, through the door to the right. The elevator is straight, as well as in the case of any kind of emergency, as you leave that door, there's actually the closest emergency exit is directly on your left. For those joining online, just a reminder that your microphones and video have been disabled and we will not be able to hear and see you. Please do, though, use the chat function to participate at any point of this event. The staff will pass along these to myself, which I'll acknowledge and be able to read out. Now, as each award winner is announced, I ask that the recipients come forward, receive their certificate. We're going to have a photo taken to my left, and you'll be invited to say a few words to all of us present here this evening. Following the formal presentations, I'm going to ask that all those who've received awards who are able to be here this evening come forward for a group photograph, again at the same location. Now, for those in the room, please don't be shy about visiting the refreshment table following the end of the formal part of this evening. So now for why we're all here. So the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society's Publications Awards are held every 2 years and are given out for the best publications dealing with the history of Northwestern Ontario within the past 3 years. Awards fall into 5 categories. The M. Elizabeth Arthur Award, full-length scholarly works. The M. Elizabeth Arthur Award, full-length scholarly works. The J.P. Bertrand Award for scholarly articles. The Gertrude H. Dyke Award for full-length popular works, the George B. Macgillivray Award for popular articles, and the Ernest R. Zimmermann Award for first publication award. Now, organizations and individuals are invited to submit nominations, and awards are judged by an independent panel in each category, except the Ernest R. Zimmermann First Publication Award, which the Society's Publication Committee chooses. This year, we'll be handing out awards in 4 of the 5 categories. Next slide, please. First up is the George B. Macgillivray Award. So the George B. Macgillivray Award is awarded for Best Popular Article. The award is named after longtime supporter of the Society, Colonel George B. Macgillivray, commander of the Macgillivray clan between 1989 and 1994, and a longtime publisher of what became the Chronicle Journal. Macgillivray was a prolific author of articles focused on the history of our region and on Clan Macgillivray. Now, as you can see, a variety of articles were nominated this year. It's with great pleasure, on behalf of the Publications Committee, that I'd like to announce that this year's award for the George B. Macgillivray Award goes to Hannah Johnson. For her article, Swedish Immigrants in Religion in Port Arthur and Fort William, 1883 to 1914, which was published in the Society's Papers and Records in the 2022 issue. So if you want to come over here, I'm going to read the citation as well. So the jurors had this to say about the article. An interesting examination on a topic that is not frequently written about in Thunder Bay and other histories. In Hannah Johnson's own words, this article will address less explored elements of local Swedish history, and specifically local religious history, to expand the narrative of Swedes in the region. And this is from the jurors. Throughout the article, we see evidence of an argument including a deep look at the push and pull factors leading to a large Nordic population in Lakehead, where religion is a community stabilizing factor. Readers will enjoy this glimpse into the community life in the Lakehead at the turn of the 20th century. Please join me again in congratulating Hannah Johnson. So move over to get a picture.
Okay. Either side, or how do we want to do this?
So, there you go. So I'll scoot over a little bit. Also. My eyes are open to shit.
Mine rarely are.
Like to speak.
I mean, I might, yeah.
Right ahead.
Take the mic, you get a chance.
Hello. Yeah, this was surprising to me, to be honest, but I'm very excited. And I'm glad to see that the article I wrote resonated with more people than just myself. So, yay. And thank you, obviously, to everyone who decided that.
Congratulations again, Hannah. Our next award to be handed out this evening is the J.P. Bertrand Award for Best Full-Length Scholarly Article focused on the history of Northwestern Ontario. Throughout his life, Joseph Theodore Bertrand had a passion for history. Following his arrival at the Lakehead in 1900, he established himself through numerous talks, articles, and books as a leading expert on our region's history. He was heavily involved in the Society in the 1940s and 1950s, including as a board member. Bertrand's publications include the book Highway of Destiny, perhaps the first serious analysis of the history of Northwestern Ontario, and Timberwolves, which the Society published in 1997. Now this year, a number of outstanding articles, as you can see, were nominated. So with great pleasure, I'd like to announce that the winner of the J.P. Bertrand Award for 2023 is the article Food Production in the Wabigoon Basin, the First 9,000 Years by Tom Piotto and Connie Nelson, published in the Canadian Historical Review, Volume 103, Issue 4, in December 2022. Now, the jurors had this to say about the article. The authors explore the activities of Indigenous people near what is now Dryden, Ontario. Through most of the Holocene period, i.e. the millennia of Indigenous activity since the retreat of the Ice Age glaciers. This article reveals the breadth of research into food security carried out by the authors. Their history of food sovereignty exercised by Indigenous peoples is an important contribution to the history of Northwestern Ontario. Exploring 9,000 years of Indigenous history is an astonishing achievement, and the collaboration of Dr. Connie Nelson, Professor Emeritus of Social Work at Lakehead University, and Dr. Tom Piotto, one of Lakehead University's Master's Program graduates, has given us deep insights into the experience of Indigenous peoples. Please join me in congratulating Tom Piotto and Connie Nelson, this year's recipients of the J.P. Bertrand Award. Connie?
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to grab. Make sure I get the right names.
Yeah.
The names are on the inside.
The names are on the inside?
Oh, the name.
Sure, sorry. If you want to come over here, we'll take a picture and then we'll let you get voted.
Just make sure I got it, please. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to say a few?
Oh, sure. Do you want to go first?
Voting here?
Sure. Thank you. It's a real honor to have been selected, along with my colleague, Tom, to be recognized for the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society for the J.P. Bertrand Award. I remember when I first got my PhD, I was often known as the PhD person who would champion Northwestern Ontario, and so this is a real honor to have been recognized by the work of Tom and myself. We hope that this article that we wrote and the research that we did will be transforming and maybe shift some of the readers' understanding of the significance of the First Peoples' early skillful and innovative and resilient contributions to food sourcing. I hope those of you who have the chance to read it will recognize that this is making a shift from talking about Indigenous people without giving them names, et cetera, and we tried to shift the narrative. A couple people I'd like to thank in the progress of making this award. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ron Harpel for introducing Tom and I. I called Ron and asked if he knew of a really energetic person who could be a postdoc. And Ron suggested Tom, and well, you know the rest of the story. I'm a firm believer. I told Ron I wanted somebody who knew something that I didn't know. So I'm a very firm believer in experience, in interdisciplinary research and how it brings a rich diversity of perspective. I also would like to thank Dr. Matthew Boyd in anthropology, who's pioneering historic research on corn and wild rice in Northwestern Ontario was very relevant to our exploration. And Matt also was a very valuable critique reader of our early drafts, and we need to thank him for that. And a heads up to you, Michelle, for being an avid and broad-reaching supporter of enhancing all of our perspectives on Northwestern Ontario. I'm always amazed. I turn around and here's Michelle doing this and that and this and that, and so you're a real leader for championing Northwestern Ontario. And Tom, it's just a pleasure and an honor to have you as a colleague. So thank you.
Oh, you sure? All right, thanks. I appreciate being called energetic. 4 years ago, when I was put in touch with Connie, I looked like Timothy Chalamet, and this article has turned me into the husk you see before you. I want to just echo Connie's comments about interdisciplinarity. I guess a big thing for academics, or I mean, just in life, you get caught in your own niche. And you do have to step outside sort of your intellectual or emotional or whatever comfort zone sometimes, if only to, remind yourself why sort of the frameworks you use are useful. And if they're not, well, anyways. Okay, so leaving that, pontificating aside, I have a few people to thank as well. Connie anticipated a lot of these names, but I want to first off thank Connie for being my energetic collaborator, and Dan Duckert, and he took the cover photo, right?
Yes.
Yes, Dan Duckert and her team for the Northwestern Ontario Research Node. Without, a lot of this article is putting together other people's work in one big synthesis. So we're standing on the shoulders of giants here. Again, I'd like to thank Ron for putting me in touch with Connie, Ron Harpel, and I'd like to thank Michelle Beaulieu for always being supportive. And I think I talked with you about this article at some point when it was in the works, didn't I?
Yeah, years ago.
Yeah, so, and the interesting thing about Michel is you can always ask him about any given topic on local history, and off the top of his head, he'll mention 5 spots where there's an archive you could look at, and then he'll run off to something else. It's much appreciated. I'd like to thank also Matthew Boyd of the Anthropology Department at Lakehead and Clarence Surratt. Their work was really useful for this article. Leo Weisberg and Tim Holzkam, authors who've written about the Dryden-Wabigoon area. Brittany Luby, the author of Damned, also on the Dryden-Wabigoon area, which was a really useful resource. I'd like to thank, the editorial board and the reviewers from the Canadian Historical Review. I'd like to thank Ashley Lemke of the University of Texas Arlington for her work on caribou hunting in the Ice Age and the evidence that exists under the Great Lakes. And she sent me a copy of an article, a reply to a reply entitled "The Day the Armchair Broke," which is a great piece of academic knifemanship or knifewomanship, and I suggest you all read it. And I'd also like to thank, for the record, Jeremy Kingsbury and Boyd Cothran, who are both historians of Ojibwe, Anishinaabe, and Algonquian peoples for contributions that ended up, it couldn't make the word count. But their contributions are here nonetheless. Thank you.
So next is the M. Elizabeth Arthur Award for full-length scholarly work. Dr. Elizabeth Arthur had a profound influence in our region. First teaching at Port Arthur Collegiate Institute, later becoming a founding member of the Department of History at Lakehead University. A well-respected historian nationally, including serving on the Council of the Champlain Society, which also published her monumental book, Thunder Bay District, 1821 to 1892. Arthur served on the board of the Society and, unacknowledged, steered the revived papers and records during most of the 1970s. And when I mean unacknowledged, if you open them up, she's actually not listed as one of the editors. Again, for the Elizabeth Arthur Award, a wide variety of works covered many aspects of our region's history were nominated. I'm pleased to announce that the jury has selected Scott Bertholet's Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire, published by McGill Queen's University Press in 2022. The jurors had this to say about Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire. It is an important historical work that adds fascinating nuance to discussions around colonialism and empire building in the Hudson's Bay watershed region that would eventually comprise Northwestern Ontario and large parts of the Prairie Provinces. His work adds to a growing body of literature that challenges not only the notion of uncontested European encroachment into the continental interior, but also the concept of a middle ground, where power relations between Indigenous and European peoples were more or less equally negotiated in the Hudson's Bay watershed. Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire stresses Indigenous agency and the complicated role that French-Canadian men, particularly the coureurs de bois and voyageurs, played in the extension of French imperial aspirations in the territory. Moreover, Bertholet's study also serves as a complement to the gender-based work of early historians such as Sylvia Van Kirk in its exploration of the origins of the Métis Nation prior to the 19th century. Critically, it also provides the reader with an appreciation for the remarkable cultural and geographic complexity that characterized the Hudson's Bay watershed during the French colonial period. People hailing from the region will also recognize the many family names and places that shaped and continue to shape the cultural milieu of what was once the inland reaches of France's ambivalent empire. Please join me in congratulating Scott Bertholet, this year's recipient of the M. Elizabeth Arthur Award. Unfortunately, Scott was unable to be here in person. However, he has sent us the following video remarks.
Just a minute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Bertholet. I am an assistant professor in the history department at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. I am also Red River Métis from Winnipeg, Manitoba. I'm the author of Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire, French Indigenous Relations and the Rise of the Métis in the Hudson Bay Watershed, and that's what brings me here today. I am here because I wanted to sincerely thank the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society for awarding Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire the very prestigious M. Elizabeth Arthur Award for Best Full-Length Scholarly Work. It is quite the honor to have Heirs of an Ambivalent Empire, which is my first book, recognized by you all. So I really wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to also thank Michelle Beaulieu, president of the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society, who shared the wonderful news with me and who met with me over Zoom to give me some of the particulars of the award and the meeting today, which sadly I was unable to attend. It's my great regret, actually, that I cannot join you in person to accept this award. Thunder Bay has a very special place in my heart. Having completed the Winnipeg-Kingston round trip several times now, since I began at Queen's back in 2019, I've been able to visit Thunder Bay several times. Sites like Kakabeka Falls, the Terry Fox Memorial and Lookout, Fort William Historical Park, and of course Sleeping Giant Provincial Park are all sites of great historical significance and natural beauty that hold a very special place in my heart whenever I am able to visit your fine city. And of course, the historical significance of Thunder Bay has also left an immense impression on me. As my book describes, the French post and portage on the Kaminatisqua River acted as a gateway between the Great Lakes watershed and the Hudson Bay watershed. As Michelle and I have already discussed, I hope to join you all in Thunder Bay for a talk about my research sometime in the future. Date, to be determined, as my summer plans and fall, winter plans all begin to come into place. But it would indeed be my very great pleasure to get to meet you all in person. So once again, I wanted to thank you for this very significant recognition of my research, and I hope to see you all in person very soon. Thank you, and goodbye.
Please join me again in congratulating Dr. Bertrand. So our final award this evening is the Ernest R. Zimmermann First Publication Award. From his arrival to the Lakehead in 1967 to take a position at the Department of History at Lakehead University, the late Dr. Ernest R. Zimmermann was a force to be reckoned with. During his career, he served as chair of the Department of History and as Dean of Arts. Ernst served on the city's local Architectural Conservation Authority Committee, now HAC, the executive of the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society, and what was then known as the National Exhibition Center for Indian Art, which is now the Thunder Bay Art Gallery. An expert on German and Russian history, his work later in life focused on the prisoner of war experience in Canada. Now, this award is the Society's only cash award, paid through an endowment established by the proceeds from the book, The Little Third Reich on Lake Superior, History of Canadian Internment Camp R, established by Beverly Lehman and Ernst, Beverly after Ernst's passing. So it's a great pleasure, pleased to announce that this year's recipient of the Ernest R. Zimmermann First Publication Award is Hannah Johnson. And judging from the surprised look that those online cannot see, this is totally unexpected for Hannah. So, if you want to come up.
Jumping the gun again. I'll just come
No,
up.
It's, what I will say, Hannah, is that, I mean, one thing the publication committee, when was looking at as articles that were published in the region dealing with first publications, not only, obviously, because it won the Gertrude Dyke Award, but it was an outstanding contribution over the last 3 years. So it's something to be incredibly proud for. Society's really proud that it was published in Papers and Records as well. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So don't lose that.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough.
If you want to come over and have a picture.
Oh, yes.
You want to say a few words again?
I'm bad at speeches.
It's up to you. You don't have to.
Thank you. I'm really bad at speeches, but thank you.
Read her paper.
And I can say this because I recused myself and was not one of the people judging. Hannah's work is also direct result of her graduate research and master's work at Lakehead University. I mean, so it was an outstanding master's project that turned into what is obviously an outstanding article. So congratulations again, Hannah. So we've now come to the end of our biannual publications award. I'm going to say a few thank yous to a number of individuals. I'd like to congratulate, though, once again, all this year's recipients, remind them to, we're going to be taking a group photo after I wrap things up. But first, this type of event would not have been possible without the Society's staff and our volunteers. In particular, I'd like to express the Society's thanks to those individuals who served on the juries of the various awards this year. Jury members included Dr. Ernest Epp, Deborah Gold, Dr. C. Nathan Hatton, Dr. Ronald Harpel, Dr. Peter Raffo, Beverly Soloway, and L. Andra Warner. So if you just please give a round of applause for all this. This was all done through volunteer effort. I'd also like to recognize and thank the Publications Committee of the Society, who over the past year not only was working on things relating to the awards, but also all the publications that the Society puts out. Beth Bogue, Mark Chokla, Timatope Ojo, Sarah James, Dr. David Ratz, Dr. Thorold Tronrud, Michael DeJean, and Scott Bradley. So let's give a round of applause for all of them. And I'd also like to acknowledge that the Thunder Bay Historical Museum Society, as always, is grateful for the support it receives from various levels of government, our donors, corporate members, and of course, our individual and family members like you all. Our ability to fulfill the Society's mission and mandate and to hold events such as these and to give out these types of awards would not be possible without this support. So thank you all, have a nice evening, and please do drive safely if you are leaving here and driving home. Have a nice evening.
Eat the refreshments.